Hello everyone, welcome to Talent Sprint. So in this session we are going to discuss the budget, the very important topic for economics, that is budget. So what do you mean by budget? So budget is a English word. It is derived from a French word called budget. It means a little bag. So in simple terms we can say a wallet or purse. So generally every wallet consists of the incomes and expenditures. All incomes will go into that wallet and all expenditures will go out of that wallet. So that's why the budget is a word. It is an English word derived from a French word which means little bag. That's why the finance minister always shows the leather briefcase before the presentation of budget, which we have seen in the first slide. Okay. So it represents the budget is presented by the finance minister in the Lok Sabha, okay, and also the state finance minister in the legislative assembly. Later we'll see the legislative process of budget presentation. So moving on to what is a budget. So budget is actually a financial statement for a year, that is annual financial statement. Okay, so what does it consist of? Both incomes and expenditures. What do you mean by income? Income means which generates money for us. What do you mean by expenditure? Which we spend, which we consume. Okay, so it should consist of both. Only income or only expenditure should not be present. It should consist of both. So it is an annual financial statement of both incomes and expenditures of either an individual or family or nation. An individual has budget, a family has budget, and also a country also has budget. Okay, moving on to the history of budget presentation. So for the first time the word budget was used by a person called Robert Walpole. He was a British finance minister and also he was a prime minister of Britain at that time. He used the English word budget for the first time. Earlier budgets were presented, but he used the English word budget for the first time in the year 1733. So this is the first time he has used the word budget in the world. Okay, and coming to India, from the British India, it was James Wilson. He used the word budget for the first time in the year 1860. He was the finance minister for British India. Okay, so 1860 was British India. Yes, so did they present for Indian people or for their own purpose? It was for the purpose of the British. So coming to independent India, it was by R.K. Shanmugam Shetty. He was the first person to introduce the word budget for independent India on 26th November 1947. He was the finance minister at that time. Okay, so this is the history of budget presentations in the world and the British India and also in the independent India. Coming to some more data, Morarji Desai, he has a record number of presentations, that is 10 times in Indian history. He has presented budget for 10 times. This is an all-time record till now. And he also has a record of presenting on his two birthdays in the years 1964 and 1968. Guess his birthday, when could it be? It is on February 29th. Okay, in 10 years, 2 years means on February 29th. Okay, moving on to the types of budgeting methods. What are the types of budgeting methods generally used? So the first type of budgeting method is zero-based budgeting. Next is incremental budgeting, and third is gender responsive or gender based budgeting. We shall discuss about them in detail. So what do you mean by zero based budgeting? So as the name says, zero. So it considers that the previous allocations as zero. So fresh allocations will be made in the coming budget. So it thinks that there were no budgets earlier. So for every policy there will be fresh allocations will be made. So such type of budgeting is called zero budgeting. Okay. Next is incremental budgeting. What do you mean by incremental budgeting? Increment means hike, increase. So it takes the previous allocations and increases all the allocations. Earlier 100 crores, this year more than 100 crores. So such type of budgeting is called as incremental budgeting. This is done by most of the politicians who don't have enough knowledge. And that means whether it requires really 100 crores or more or less, that doesn't go into the lookup. So such type of budgeting is called as incremental budgeting. They'll increase always for every policy. Okay. Next type of budgeting is gender responsive budgeting. So what do you mean by gender? So it takes into the accounts of gender needs. That means more allocations are made for the empowerment or development of women. Such type of budgeting is called as gender responsive budgeting. So these are the general types of budgeting. First is zero based budgeting, next is incremental budgeting, and third is gender responsive budgeting. Moving on to the types of budgets in the world. What are the types of budgets we have? The first is balanced budget. What do you mean by balanced? I have told you already. Budget means it includes both incomes and expenditures. So when both are equal, such type of budget is called as balanced budget. That means all the incomes are equal to expenditures. Suppose I am earning 100 crores, I am also spending 100 crores. So such type of budget is called as balanced budget. Next is excess or surplus. When I call excess or surplus, when my income is more than expenditure. Such type of budget is called as excess budget or surplus budget. Next is deficit budget. If income is less than expenditure, that is expenditure is more than income, such type of budget is called as deficit budget. Okay, most of the countries will have deficit budget because they spend more than the income. Suppose last party has spent 100 crores, so the new party will try to spend more than 100 crores. They think that we may lose power if we don't spend more than the previous party's budget. Okay, so most of the countries have deficit budget. Okay, moving on to the types of budgets in India. Earlier we have seen types of budgets in the world. Now we shall see the types of budgets in India. So what are the types of budgets we have? The first is union or general budget, and next is railway budget. So in the year 1924, actually they were one. In the year 1924, these two were separated after the recommendation of a committee called Ackworth Committee. Earlier they were joined. There was only single budget called general budget. But railways was separated in the year 1924 after the recommendation of Ackworth Committee. But again when they were merged in the year 2017, they were merged after the recommendation of Bibek Debroy Committee. Bibek Debroy is a full-time member in Niti Aayog, and also he is the head of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, EAC. Okay, so he has recommended for the merger of both union, that is general budget, and railway budget. So he thought that there is no separate budget required for railways. Okay, so separation was done in 1924 and joining was done in 2017. So after 93 years this joining was done. Okay, generally the union budget is presented on last day of February. Okay, but this year in 2017 it was presented on 1st Feb. Okay, there is no trend to be followed. It was followed since many years from the British times, but this is followed this year like that. Next year it may be same, it may be changed. Okay, as per the convenience of the government. Moving on to other events. The first event is halwa ceremony. I think you are surprised. Why halwa? Why not it is laddu or something other sweet? So I am not joking. It is halwa ceremony only, prepared by the Union Finance Ministry. So what is this halwa ceremony? So Union Finance Ministry prepares a bandi full of halwa. Okay, it happens just 10 days before the actual presentation of the union or general budget in the parliament. So why it prepares halwa means it's a token of opening the budget, printing of budget papers. So earlier, before that, the budget was in soft copy. Now they will bring it into hard copy. Why I need to print budget papers? Because I have to circulate in the parliament so that other members of parliament will get to know about the budget seeing those papers. Okay, so generally it marks the printing of budget papers, and all the officials in the finance ministry should come packing with their bags, like going into the big boss house. No use of mobile phones, no going home for those 10 days till the finance minister presents the budget. Why we are doing that? Because now the budget printing starts. To maintain secrecy, we are doing this because budget is not a simple document. It decides the fate of the country. If it is leaked out, it is a guilt for the country. So for this, we are maintaining this secrecy. And the next event is presentation of economic survey. What is the economic survey? It tells about the previous goals achieved and also about the failures we have seen. And then it sets new goals for the coming year. Okay, so this is the about economic survey. Generally, economic survey is presented one day before the union or general budget. So first economic survey, then general budget. Clear with this? So this is all for this session. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you.